All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the Million Dollar Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with David Denning. David, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today.
Oh, thanks for having me here. I'm really excited for today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. And I want to give a shout out real quick to the folks. You and I met through some amazing folks, and that's how. The best connections come when you get connected through a person or a resource that you already know. And that's how you and I got connected. And we already got to connect, have a conversation. You are just on the tail end of getting back from a vacation slash work trip to Spain, and here we are getting to have this conversation today. And I've been looking forward to this, David. I have really been looking forward to this. And so, what to start? We're going to get into a deeper conversation, but I'm going to start by asking a nice, simple question. Just get the ball rolling. What do you do, and who do you serve, David?
Thanks, Kevin. So we primarily serve insurance agents and agency owners.
Okay.
Worked with a lot of industries before that, but that was a niche we really 8 years ago focused down to. There's a lot of need and a lot of opportunity in that space, and I love the impact that they make through protecting others and families and legacies, usually most important things in people's lives. So
Yeah.
I will caveat that by when I initially we looked at to focus into it, I was like, it's not a bunch of old dudes in suit and ties that knock on doors, and it is different than that. So if that's your view of the insurance industry, it is changing. It's been very slow, but is now rapidly changing to try to keep up with everywhere else. And we serve them through teaching them how to leverage organic social media, meaning social
Okay.
media without paid ads, to bring in prospects and leads and referrals, referral partners, or even team members. So really how to use social media. And we kind of joke, we teach Facebook to boomers, but that's not the case. We work with all age ranges and fun, but it is very much how do I use social media to an industry that maybe hasn't really embraced it to what you can leverage it for growth. So we kind of lean into the relational aspect of business and the industry versus what the industry's primarily focused on of transactional, the
Okay.
smile and dial. I call it the frown and drown, trying to move them away from that more to the relational focus and really personal brand and how to leverage social for that. And that's what we teach them how to do.
Okay, okay. So you mentioned that you had done some other stuff. What is some of your backstory? How did you happen to get into this line of work?
Depends how far back we want to go here. So, I would be remiss if I don't start from with my partner. So Elle and I, who is my spouse and partner in the business,
Okay.
we actually started dating at 16 in high school. Went to the
Hmm.
same high school with a math and science program that we were both in, and started dating at 16 there. Ended up getting married in college. We both grew up in Atlanta, so I went to Georgia Tech and she went to SCAD there,
Okay.
and we both had backgrounds in marketing consulting, and that led to a lot of fun stuff. We both had a passion for exploring other parts of the world and cultures and living in different areas. So we actually lived in South Africa for a couple years
Oh,
and then
wow.
came back to the US, and we had started our first company probably about 11 years ago or so at this
Okay.
point. And we did marketing consulting for, yes, insurance, but also real estate, SaaS companies, tech startups, mom and pops, dry cleaners,
Okay.
even pooper scooping businesses. We worked with a whole variety and it was fun. And we kind of ran a lifestyle business where, if we could do 10,000, 15,000 a month in revenue, that was great. And we live and travel and rent our place out for winter in Florida, which we were living down in Southwest Florida, which we're still down here. And we'd rent our place for winter and go travel to Vietnam and Thailand and Philippines for 4 or 5 months a year and come back after
Okay.
winter. And we did that for years until eventually met a third partner of ours about 8 years ago who came from the insurance industry, was a serial entrepreneur, and we founded this company together and focused just to working with insurance agents and agency owners. And that's kind of the short, quick how we ended up in this industry today.
Yeah. Yeah. So 8 years in the industry
Mhm.
serving insurance agents and stuff. What inspires you most about the work that you guys get to do and the impact you're making?
I would say getting to see the shift and the change in our clients of realizing that people actually know who they are and want to work with them, want to have discussions with them, because it's a big shift from the constant rejection day in and day
Mhm.
out of the call 100, 500 times a day, try to get someone to answer the phone who doesn't want to talk to you, yells at you, and or just says no. And it's a grind, 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 and showing them that there's a whole different way of approaching business where I'm building that brand, that trust, those relationships, and people coming to me where I don't have to go out and find people. I pull them in. So that
Yeah.
pull instead of that push.
Yeah.
And they get really excited when they're like, I just had someone reach out. I just had an uncle I hadn't seen in 4 years want a policy from me. I have all these new people I've never met before reaching out to me, or even walking in somewhere locally and be like, yes, all those people want to talk and have referrals for me, but I've never met them. They say they've seen me on social media before and that they saw me before I walked in the room. And I was like, yeah, that's how it works. So just kind of seeing their eyes open to that and the world of opportunities and their growth from that side, which is
Yeah.
having fun in the business
Yeah.
versus feeling like it's a grind day in and day out. It's a lot
Yeah.
easier to put in the work when you're having fun.
I have never ever done, cold calling or anything like that and stuff.
It's not
Uh,
fun.
but I can only imagine what that must be like and how much, what a high percentage of rejection that you would get
Mhm.
because you're just reaching out to people who you don't even know you from Adam. I mean, versus I do know what it's like to have people just be, well, I mean, this podcast is such a great
Yep.
example of that. I mean, we're a little over 4 years in. We've done over 400 episodes, and I never have a problem finding guests. They find me,
Yep.
and hosting this podcast. My goodness, it allows me to connect with all these amazing entrepreneurs that I would have never had a chance or even a reason to connect with
Mhm.
if not for hosting the podcast. And there's a big, I mean, man, I love just like people just coming to you saying, "Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to talk. I want to get to know you a little bit." It just totally. I can see how that would change everything for them and stuff. And big difference. It's so,
It's a really old industry. I mean, it's been around since the dawn of time. It's
oh,
probably one of the
sure.
oldest. And because of that, until probably internet, and even then until like COVID, they didn't have to shift or change a ton. And so for 100 years, it was just kind of the same thing. You know, you mail some stuff out in the mail, people maybe fill out a card, then you go see them in person, or you go, run some seminars in around your neighborhood or your cities and stuff. And that was kind of how insurance was done. And then COVID hit, and a lot of them were like, well, I can't go visit people in person anymore. I'm not allowed, or they're scared, or stuff's not happening. I guess we'll talk to them over the phones. And then they're like, oh, well, we can just have them fill out things online, just call them a whole bunch and they'll answer and we can try to talk to them. And that was like the biggest modern shift, but still implementing
Okay.
things like social media and podcasting and YouTube and building out strategic referral partner relationships even outside your area and across the country. Like those are all still newer things for this industry, whereas most industries, they've been doing that for, 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's exciting to see the shift happen in real time.
Yeah. It's interesting. I never thought about that though, but you're right. I could see how COVID would have like been a major kind of a transition point for that
Hmm.
industry and stuff. And it's so interesting because I think about my own insurance agent. I don't know how many years I've been with him, but
Hmm.
my gosh, I used to own a carpet cleaning and water damage
Okay.
restoration business
Yeah.
years ago. I mean, we sold that business in '04, so it's been a while.
Hmm.
And but I met my insurance agent because we cleaned carpets for him and his wife,
Hmm.
and that's how I found out about them. And he's been my insurance agent ever since. And I know, I could probably go shop around and maybe find cheaper insurance. I don't know, but I'll tell you, over all these 20 plus years, anytime that anything's come up, I mean, I remember one time we walked in the house years ago and we got a two-story house and like I walk into the garage and into the hallway coming into the kitchen and water's just pouring out from the light fixture and stuff. And I'm like, that's a really uneasy feeling when you walk in on
Yes. Not good.
No. And we had a water leak upstairs and of course it was a big ordeal, but man, they just took care of it. And all I did was I just called Rob, and now, he doesn't even his family doesn't even live local. They moved a couple years ago. They live in Nashville now, but
Mhm.
he's still my agent, because it
Yep,
doesn't matter. And so, and it's all about relationship though.
absolutely.
That's the thing. It's all about relationship.
I mean, that's the perfect example from the flip side, from the agent side of having a relationship with your client, and that meaning they're sticking with you. They're not going out and trying to replace you every
Yeah.
so often, but there's a lot coming from that transactional side that I talked about where they don't know their agent's name. That was the only time they ever talked to that agent. So 6 months, a year later, when it's time for renewals, well, of course, I'm going to reach out and shop online or go try to find someone else. Like, I don't have any relationship there. So why wouldn't I go switch? In fact, if the agent had called me a little more often, maybe I actually would stay with them and feel comfortable. But I feel like they just sold me something and disappeared. And that's why it is a battle on the transactional side, because they're constantly having to try to replace people that switched and changed because there's no
Yeah.
ties and ongoing relationship there. And
Yeah.
so, it's just a different world and perspective, and it's the world I like to be on that side because I really think that's how business is done.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what's some examples of results that you've just helped clients get that you're incredibly proud of? I mean, you don't have to name names. You can if you want. That's totally your call, David.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have a lot really proud of. Some are like monetary, some are like mental and seeing the growth, or
Yeah.
their kind of spouse that maybe was skeptical originally of them in business and maybe not as supportive, that then was like, man, this is amazing. You've grown so much. You seem like a night and day different person. Those kind of things as well. But
Yeah.
probably the easiest to talk about is like the financial growth of businesses and stuff there. So I remember. Actually, our very first clients 6 years ago for the program that we run called the Closers Click, when we opened it, they were day one. Hey, we're in. We want to do this. It was a father-son team in Austin, Texas,
Okay.
Joe and David Camper, and they had a family agency they had started together, and they were doing maybe about 100,000 a month in new business premium for insurance, which is probably anywhere from 10 to 20,000 in revenue a month or
Okay.
so. And in working through us just through social media and referral partner relationships, not ads and not buying leads, they ended up scaling that to where they do about 3.5 million a month in
Oh,
premium on
wow.
that side. So they're doing, 300 or 400,000 in revenue a month off that side. So really, like almost 100x
Yeah.
off of that. And that's, and they're really sad. Their brand is really well known. Like Joe, the son, is very known through social media. He even runs his own Facebook groups of insurance agencies. He's in charge
Okay.
of franchise sales because they actually got acquired by an agency and stuff there, and it's all through his brand and people knowing. And he has a blast. He actually has 4 daughters now, and yeah, he's loves it because he doesn't have to go find people; they just come to him through social. And so that's one I'm really proud of.
Yeah.
And then one other that did come to mind too is it's an example is Dan Farnsworth had retired from the Navy. He was kind of around mid 40s or so, and it's like,
Okay.
okay, I'm coming out of this. I have a 6-figure contract with the Department of Defense, but he's like, but I want to be out. I want to I want to get away, and so I've got my life insurance license. I really want to grow this to replace that 6-figure income, and I have like a 5-year goal. If I could do that within 5 years, transition out, that would be so great. Well, he came in and started working with us, and within 6 months, had already replaced the 6-figure income, dropped that job,
Wow.
and now does about 40,000 a month of commissions through his insurance business, through implementing social media and referral partner relationships. So those kind of changes and shifts, I love to talk about those.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
mean, really, the world is your oyster with this because it keeps on exponentially rewarding you. Just like as you build more relationships and deeper relationships, they refer you to others, they connect you with others, and all kinds of fun stuff comes out of it. Podcast invites or speaking at seminars, all kinds of fun things come out of relationships.
Yeah. Man, what a cool example. I mean, this guy, he's thinking like a 5-year timeline, and they meet you, and you guys compact that down to 6 months. That's pretty awesome. So,
It's not only just like the being able to, yes, have that income and grow that business, but making it really fun and specific to the person. Because that's how we teach social is it has to be aligned and
yeah,
authentic,
yeah,
especially even more so in the world of AI today. But even back then, it has to be aligned, authentic, because it has to be you on that. And it also makes it easier when it's tied to things you love. So coming from the military and where he's at in the country, like he's a big Second Amendment guy. He actually teaches concealed carry courses and
okay,
stuff like that as well. So that actually ties into part of the content he does and talks about. And it's also to his target audience. He's helping with life insurance and different things and like kind of planning their legacies on the financial side is through that too. So tying
okay.
the subjects of what you're talking about in social to what you're helping with in business and making that all aligned is something that I love to do too, because I think people think social media has to be scary or have to put on a facade, but you can be you and absolutely attract people that absolutely want to work with you specifically.
Yeah. It's so interesting you brought that up because, talk about, having to put on a facade or having to, feel like we need to show up a
Mhm.
certain way in order to, whatever, in order to be successful, in order to, and the reality is, well, we just show up and just be us, complete with our perceived faults and everything. That's what attracts people to us is us just being real. It's,
People work with people, not
yeah,
logos, not companies. They need to feel connected, especially if they're going to stay with that person year after year, and trust them with the insurance side with the most important things in their life, their finances, their home, their family, and their health. All these important things. I got to have trust with the person who set me up. I don't want to be not covered or have the wrong things in my family or my legacy suffer. And yeah, and so that being authentic is key. I will say 85% of the people that come to us, their very first thing they say is, I'm not a social media person, or I'm scared of putting myself out there, my face, because we all have these perceived flaws and fear and hesitancy. And that's one of our favorite things to help them kind of work through and show them is like, hey, you absolutely can be you, and people be supportive and love this, and the way that we teach is natural, not salesy, and they're like, oh,
yeah,
I didn't think it could be like this, and it just kind of opens up their eyes and kind of bumps their confidence. Some are really
yeah.
successful even before they come to us, but this idea of putting myself out here on social and publicly, that's a little scary for them.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's well, okay. So now that we've got some context set here and people understand a little bit about who you are, David, and what you guys are all about, I want to shift gears just a little bit. I want to start talking about
Yeah,
the relationship side of
yeah.
all this. So, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so
Hmm.
much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
Yes, I mean the most obvious answer would be my spouse, but
Sure.
let's go. That we could definitely talk about that, but I think specifically I can think of a couple. One more for the business and perspective of where we're going in the business. Another for why we even end up in this area and and doing what we're doing. So I think the
Okay.
very first one of how did we end up in this particular niche and area and pursuing entrepreneurship and someone to kind of look at almost as a mentor on in that space is Renee Cabrera, our partner that we ended up founding this specific company to the insurance space with. He's
Okay.
a little bit older than us, serial entrepreneur, had built and sold multiple companies before, and he was one of the first people we'd ever connected with and worked with as a partner, which is a lot of trust going into that because you're putting your eggs in that basket financially as well.
Yeah.
And just watching how he'd always put his family first, his faith first, impact, business will come and go, and you have this ambition to grow, but keeping in mind that this is a marathon and relationship side, he's had a huge impact over us really pursuing this, doing this together, as he'd worked with his spouse in those businesses as well. And, it was someone very much wanted to emulate in life, that life isn't just your P&L sheet that month. It is this ongoing, keeping this perspective and optimism, which, I try to be almost uh, overly optimistic about life and everything, because I enjoy it and I love it. And that's just my personality too. So he's had a big impact on us. We actually just spent last weekend, he came up and visited us, and got to catch up on a lot of things there. But I would say for the business and what we're doing, how we're executing it, and has the biggest shift, um, to going from, we probably had more on the credit card than the bank account at that point, and one of the biggest investments we made at a scary point in time was a program called Clients Community. Landon and Stapes and Jaden were the people who kind of founded and ran it, and their specialty was very much how to leverage Facebook group communities that you have and building out programs around that space, for helping clients put things in place, whatever that is. They worked with a whole bunch of different industries, but we had a large Facebook group at that point. We didn't have program in place. We were more connecting people with resources and doing a little consulting. And we're like, we know what? We absolutely have the knowledge, expertise, and people and team to do an amazing job helping our clients put things in place and grow. We should put together a program and really leverage the group as part of helping and connecting with these agency owners to grow and scale. And so what we learned from them was a huge impact that I think over the next 3 months tripled the business, and
Wow.
then continued to 10x from there. So yeah, we are very grateful for that and learning. And I think that just highlights um, the point of continuously learning and taking that 1% better every day, and
Yeah.
you don't know what you don't know. And that's what I find exciting, is not, I hate being complacent or in the same place or feel like I'm not moving forward as a person or a
Yeah.
business owner. And so I think that was a big thing, was learning from others and being able to apply that. And that's something we try to do day in and day out.
Yeah. We're always growing. We're always figuring new things out. We're always like, finding those nuances that, ooh,
Mhm.
that worked really good, And so, and yeah, yeah. Well, so what is an example of a situation where you personally, David, got to make a really substantial impact, maybe even in the moment, maybe it even surprised you a little bit, but yet you also know that would have never been possible if not for your relationship with any one of the people that you were just talking about. What's an example where you were empowered in that way?
Where I got to make the impact.
Yes, yes.
So I would say we had, man, there's a lot to choose from. Um, but I'll say this is probably a great example of showing what kind of impact can be made through uh initial relationship and trust, and someone really betting a lot about their life and their situation on that.
Okay.
So we had someone find us through our Facebook group community, and through online, through social, just kind of, looking through groups for things that they could apply their business or learn. And her name was Marina, and she had immigrated over to the US from Eastern Europe. And she was in California and about to move across the country. And she's like, "Hey, I have insurance business." She focused on Medicare. I have a few clients, but I really don't have a way to get more clients and grow. I'm moving across the country. I really need to grow this business and have the finances in place for it. And I really want to be successful in this, but I really just don't know how to get clients and bring them in. And I don't want to buy leads and call them on the phone. That's something I don't really like. I'm nervous about my English a little bit too. And I think this could be it on the social media side. And we said, "Hey, Marina, we got you. We know you're nervous. We know you're scared. But this is something we can help walk you through, and people be really excited to work with you." And she was like, "I'm unsure because, once again, my English is second language. I don't know how to really go after that market as well." And so talked with her and we're like, hey, everybody has their unique advantages, their knowledge, their backgrounds, their expertise. And one of the biggest things in marketing is knowing your target audience really well and going after that audience, not trying to help everybody, but having a specific niche. And everybody we've had focus to niches, 10x their business versus trying to focus to a wide net.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for her, we're like, you speak Russian, you speak, you're Slavic, you understand and speak this language. And there are a ton of first and second generation people who've moved over here that want someone that understands them, speaks the language, that trusts them. Let's lean into that for your target audience. And she's like, okay, well, she ended up getting into Facebook groups for the Slavic communities and getting connected. And they started referring her to every other person under the sun they knew. And she ended up 10xing her business from that, and just having all this community from all these Slavics across the US come to her to help with their Medicare and their parents' Medicare as a part of that. And it made a huge difference to eventually she started a YouTube channel and started doing YouTube on that side. And so I would say that was a pretty significant growth and
Yep.
impact, and
Yeah.
leaning into an area that you thought might have hindered you,
Yep.
but actually was an advantage.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now you just niche down to like these are the people that I serve, and how awesome is that? Yeah, how awesome is that? What a great example of that. What a great example. Well, for anybody that's listening to this and thinking to themselves, man, Kevin, I really appreciate David. I love how he shows up and stuff. And maybe they're curious. Maybe they're in the insurance industry, or maybe they know somebody who is in the insurance industry. Any websites, any resources we can share with folks, David?
Absolutely. I mean, I love talking about this stuff all day long.
Obviously,
To
yes.
any industry, it's my favorite things to talk about, like marketing and sales and growth and social media and having fun, but also making it really effective. I mean, if they want to go to our website, which I think you'll have the link for it,
I
like we
will.
have
Yes, we'll have
some
the
good
link.
information and resources there. Honestly, one of the best places for information or learning or connecting even is we do run a Facebook group called
Okay.
Marketing for Insurance Agents. We kept the name really simple with it, but it's almost 37,000 insurance agents across the country. We do trainings in there every single week. We drop podcast episodes, like 3 a week in there as well, with either education that are like we're teaching, or with guests. We usually have a couple guests a week that we're dropping those in there as well. And there's hundreds of thousands of posts, amazing discussions, and really love to help anybody in that group and get them resources or information. And then just in general, if they reach out to me on Facebook, shoot me a message. I love talking with people. I love connecting people. That's when we talk about relationships, it's not just relationships for us or who we could even help. It's when I see like, oh, I know Kevin and Susie absolutely will have a ton of synergy. Let me connect those two people together and watch them make magic happen. I love making connections whenever possible as well. And, it's relationships and industries and business all tie together. And that's my favorite thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Any last thing that you feel led to share, David, before we call it a wrap?
Um, I would say, I mean, coming from with what we teach a little bit, I would encourage everybody to really build your personal brand. It doesn't matter if you're, have a W-2 job somewhere for a company, still building that brand. You don't know what opportunities, connections will come from that, but especially if you run a business or entrepreneur at all, is making sure to build that on especially social, where average American spends 2.5 hours a day. It's worth building and connecting and putting that in place, just for the skill sets even of how to present something, how to do a video, how to write good copy or hook, all these things that apply to your business no matter what. But you,
Yeah.
once again, never know what kind of cool relationships or connections or opportunities that will come from that.
Yep.
And so I just encourage, if people haven't really jumped into social, if they haven't really like put any time and effort in building community or following, I would encourage them to do so, even if it's just for fun project to develop out those skill sets.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, David, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation today. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you. And I'm excited to get this out there and share it with folks. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much for Kevin, so much Kevin for having me on. I love having these discussions. I love getting to share, and yeah, I mean, I love podcasting, and I know you're talking about how much you love that before. For us, it's been such an amazing way to meet people and have
Yeah.
great discussions, hear amazing stories. So for anybody listening, I would encourage them to dive in to some of the other episodes as well and hear these discussions, hear these stories, learn from them, and don't be afraid to share your own as well. Maybe reach
Yep.
out, connect with Kevin.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, David. Really appreciate it. Look forward to getting this out there.
Thanks so much, Kevin.
You bet.